On Friday, February 28th, President Trump and Vice President Vance met with Ukrainian President Zelenskyy about finalizing an economic agreement giving the U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals and to discuss security assurances amid the Russo-Ukrainian war. Things did not go well, needless to say.
God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
I'm not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
As many of you probably know, the meeting deteriorated into a public shouting match that was televised live, and Zelenskyy was asked to leave.
I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out.
Maybe Zelenskyy should have shown up with a list of 5 things he did last week. I'm Bridget Phetasy, and this is your Dumpster Fire. Welcome to Dumpster Fire, where we make burgers out of your sacred cows. We launch new episodes every Tuesday and Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time, so join us in the chat. All right, well, I came up with a sample of Zelenskyy's list of the 5 things he did last week. Tried to push back a murderous dictator who invaded my country.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
Bought some Lockheed Martin stock. Skimmed the art of the deal. Bought a suit for an important meeting. And lastly, tried to get in touch with Hunter Biden's dealer. Not art dealer, the other kind of dealer. You would think Zelenskyy would know how to handle Trump by now. You just stroke his ego and do a little ass kissing, which is what you should be doing anyway if you're reliant on another country for billions of dollars and your livelihood. And he always looks like a guy who just got done playing laser tag. He should have shown up and made a cute little joke about how Trump is the only person he'd ever put a suit on for, and then Trump would have given him the launch codes. We know how this works, people. Even I know how this works. I'm wearing a suit for this administration. The problem is, most people haven't watched the full 50 minutes of what happened. They only see the clips. And by most people, I mean us too. Because that's the way we consume everything these days. So we have a lot of stuff that's out of context. And the other problem is people have Trump derangement syndrome and it doesn't matter. There is no such thing as a sober analysis of anything Trump does. We're just left with the two Americas. One side is cheering, "This is what we voted for," and saying this is perfect. And the other side is appalled by the display in the clips they've seen and feels like America is abandoning its sacred duty.
Beaver like fall of duties.
To defend democracy and fight evil around the world, wherever it lurks, no matter the cost. And I say everyone came out looking like shit in this. So I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did read a summary of what actually happened written by Mark Thiessen, who is a Ukraine supporter, and it seems like this really was Zelenskyy's fuck up. Like, he was coming here hat in hand, and it was supposed to be a very simple kind of, backslapping meeting, and Trump was gracious at first, even though Zelenskyy refused a request to wear a suit. Trump said, "I think he's dressed beautifully," and kind of trolled him.
I think he's dressed. I think he's dressed
I like
beautifully.
this guy.
I think he's dressed beautifully.
But also complimented. Initially, Trump publicly pledged to continue military aid to Ukraine, but then after a while, Zelenskyy started criticizing Trump in front of reporters, which is never a good move, on live television.
From the 2014, Putin broken 25 times. 25 times he broken ceasefire.
But he never broke to me. He never broke to me.
No, you were the president. You were the president during.
He never broke to me.
In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President. You've been the president.
Haven't you learned anything from the reality TV king?
This is going to be great television, I will say that.
I mean, yes, it's great television, but you're not going to win this. Then Trump was talking about the destruction of Ukrainian cities, and Zelenskyy contradicted him, saying, no, we have very good cities. You have to come see them, Mr. President. Basically implying that he was buying into Russian propaganda. But why would you contradict him on this point? Doesn't that kind of pull the heartstrings of people? Wouldn't the destruction of your cities drum up sympathy and support? Then a Polish journalist asked Trump whether he had aligned himself too much with Putin. I'm starting to talk about this in my then Trump asked him.
And I was like, damn, homie, she dumped it when you're on lockup? And he was like, yeah, I know, I thought I was gonna be with her forever, but now I'm all alone. And I was like, damn, homie, you know what? You gotta chin up because you'll find a new partner.
And Trump replied, you want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on that deal? It doesn't work that way, which is true. Just like it's also true, Trump kind of loves Putin. Things really went off the rails when Zelenskyy made the comment, you don't feel it because you have an ocean protecting you, but one day you will. And let me tell you, watching that moment, I gasped like a gay man at a brunch. I was shook to my core when I heard him say that.
But you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
And then immediately Vance jumped in and was all, have you even said thank you once?
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting, have
today.
you said thank you?
He sounded like he was practicing scolding his teenagers. And a lot of women in my group chats were like, oh my God, this makes me so hot. And I will tell you, they have daddy issues because my immediate reaction was to roll my eyes and go, okay, dad. Like, oh, if you ever said thank you? It was his moment to make Daddy Trump proud. It did feel a little bit like, look at me. I mean, he's a lawyer. He's a very good debater. He's a master debater, if you will. It was very funny, too. Like, you come to this Oval Office, like the sanctity of this sacred Oval. We all know what's happened in that Oval Office, okay? There have been Kennedys. There have been Clintons. Okay, Dad, I got you this tank. If you haven't said thank you, and to be fair to Zelenskyy, he has said thank you. He opened the meeting saying thank you. He's also very publicly said thank you many, many times. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but facts are facts. And then the meeting devolved into them all arguing and talking over each other. And then Zelenskyy was asked to leave. So this was a major fuck up on his part. Because all he had to do was go in there and be like, yay, hey guys, if he had signed the minerals deal, he would have walked away with the U.S. invested in Ukraine's independence. And instead, he alienated the guy who he is depending on to help him save his country. And he did it in front of cameras. What a moron. Moron! And I didn't buy into all the rumors of Zelenskyy being a cokehead, in case you didn't know those rumors exist, until that 50-minute sit-down that I watched only parts of. And then I was like, yeah, this maniac might be high on cocaine. Or maybe he's just exhausted from fighting a war with a Russian maniac. So yeah, long story short, now Trump has ordered a pause to all military aid to Ukraine. Because then, after this, Zelenskyy couldn't stop running his mouth. It was like someone needed to lock him away or he needs to resign. He's not doing him or his people any favors at the moment.
Yeah, Mark Thiessen in his article was saying, Trump left the door open and was like, basically just like, when you're ready to talk about peace, you're invited back. And all you have to do is apologize. And Zelenskyy refused.
It's weird that everyone's like, hey, this guy is a fascist. And he's like, I want peace. Can we stop with all of the death? This was supposed to be an exercise in transparency and diplomacy for the American people. I think it's good we get to see some of this. I also think it's bad because there's so much information that we are not privy to. So even while they're making these decisions and assessments, there's a lot of stuff that they are taking into consideration that we're never going to know about. And so the peanut gallery gets to see this public display of reality television with like one fraction of the knowledge that's available to them about this whole entire situation. Everything is so incoherent. If you're confused, you're not alone. It's a very confusing issue. That's why I wanted to avoid it. We here on Dumpster Fire have supported the Ukrainians in their fight against invaders. However, the longer this has dragged on and the more rabbit holes I've gone down, it does start to seem like a giant money laundering scheme for everyone in Europe and all these politicians in the United States. It can be both of these things. Putin is bad, and this is also absolute bullshit. It does seem sketchy. There is that weird connection to Burisma and, Hunter Biden and people being pardoned for previous years moving forward. Make sense of it for me. People keep asking me what my take is on this. Well, here it is. I don't know anything. I don't know. I know it's scary, and I know I voted for a guy to figure this shit out so that I don't have to. And that's what he's doing, and I hope he's right. Make no mistake, this is what many Americans voted for. We are tired of our money going to endless wars in other countries. Influencers and pundits supporting the war with no real solution for how to get out of it start to sound a lot like politicians as they cavalierly talk about boots on the ground, which really means sending working class kids to war. And I know many Gen Z men personally who voted exactly for this because they don't want to go to war and they're worried with all of these encroaching conflicts all over the world that that's where they're going to be, fighting some Russian in the Ukrainian border. It is scary. It's a scary time. But like I said, I voted for him. I wanted things to be different. I didn't want us flushing billions of dollars down the toilet while eggs were becoming the caviar of breakfast food. All the neocons might get what they want because it looks like the economy's going to crash. And you know what fixes that? War! Lo and behold, maybe Trump does know what he's doing. Maybe it's 4D chess. Or maybe they're making a World War III baby in Ukraine and I'll get to see if hiding under my desk actually works when the nukes start flying. Only time will tell. I have a solution. Trump and Putin should just play 18 holes for Ukraine. Winner takes all. Tell Maggie in the comments, is this an American disgrace or is this what you voted for? We want to know. I mean, it is a very complicated issue, and morons like me should not be forced to engage in it or dissect it. But also, it's a fucking dumpster fire, and I can't ignore it, because that is the name of the show, unfortunately. And the unicorns dance while the world burns. And there is the fun dumpster part of this show, and then there's the not so fun fire part of this show, and we are in the fire. Look, I try to make war and death as funny as possible.
But it's a hard sell.
I have a lot more to say about this, unfortunately. So stick around. Before our next segment, don't forget to like, subscribe, touch my bells and buttons. Tell your friends about us. Please help us reach our goal of 100,000 subscribers on YouTube so I never have to say that again. And you guys have spoken. When we hit 100,000, I will do my best Mexican weather report. Ole. You have to stick around through the ad to see the weather report, guys. I'm sorry. Them's the rules. You've all heard me talk about my Bond Charge red light face mask and how much I love it. I love that we're doing like a weird ad read in the middle of this very war-torn dumpster fire. Are you tired of being at war? Has the front lines taken some toll on your skin? That's why I love my Bond Charge red light face mask. I use it for 10 minutes every night. You can use it while watching TV, cooking a meal, putting the kids to bed, even though I think that would be terrifying. The red light face mask boosts collagen and elastin production and helps get rid of these fine lines and wrinkles and even my sunspot. It also helps with sore jaw, eczema, migraines, acne, scar tissue, wound healing, razor burn, and even ingrown facial hair. Go to bondcharge.com/Bridget and use coupon code Bridget to save 15% off. That's BONCHARGE.com/BRIDGET and use coupon code Bridget to save 15% off. It is truly a luxury and one you deserve.
You got to enjoy the luxuries while we have them.
I don't feel bad about it. All right? And if I ever do have to go to battle, I'm wearing this thing to terrify my enemies. Now let's check the weather with Janice Viagran.
56 Santa Mónica. Para el día de mañana estaremos viendo intervalos entre un poquito de solecito y también nubosidad. 68 para Los Ángeles, 66 Santa Mónica, Oxnard con 65. Si usted se encuentra en Chino, tenemos 71 grados. Ahora vamos a extender la información meteorológica.
Thank you, Janice. Speaking of pampering myself while talking about the war on Ukraine, I was asking my hairdresser. I always ask my hairdresser what the normies are talking about because he talks to everybody. And I was like, are normies aware of Ukraine? He was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, what do you think they know about it? And he was like, honestly, not much. And that about sums it up, folks.
What do you plan to do about crime in our city?
A lot.
Someday in the future, when we all have augmented reality contact lenses and chips Elon has implanted in our brains when he's emperor of the world, there should be a quiz that you have to answer before you comment on anything. Like, can you identify Ukraine on a map? And you're wrong answer, and you just instantly get lockjaw, and you're like, it's how we all sound anyways. So look, I know a lot of people are like, Bridget, you shouldn't be commenting on this because you're just an idiot and a comedian. And one, you're right. But two, so is Zelenskyy and also Trump, a wannabe comedian and an entertainer. And I was going to do an episode where I jokingly said I have a hot take on Ukraine. And then I say, I don't know anything. And that's it. The end, folks. But that would be a cop-out because, as my husband reminds me, I comment on plenty of things I know nothing about. And this is a very complex issue. Because I publicly televise this meeting, everyone in the peanut gallery, including myself, has a take and has to have a take. And it's emotionally charged, and we all have feelings about it. And they're all informed by our factory settings and our bias. The propaganda I was fed as a child, I'm Gen X, in case I hadn't mentioned that before, I was raised to hate Russia. They're the enemy. It's in my blood, you might say. Miracle on Ice, Red Dawn, Rocky, Rambo, Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. My entire childhood was a parade of dead Russians. And to be fair, Putin is a murderous dictator, so it really scratches that itch. It really tickles those factory settings in my brain. Some professional wrestler just fell out of a window in Russia today. And I would have been pushed off a balcony long ago if I lived in Russia. Hell, I might still be pushed off a balcony if I visit Europe and get too close to Russia. Like, for instance, I can probably never go to Croatia. And I guess I'm a neocon because I look at everything happening in Europe and think, yeah, the problem was Biden not going in and kicking commie ass. But can you blame me? I grew up in the 80s where killing Russians was more popular than staying married. And before everyone starts losing their shit and saying I've gone full lefty, this is the oldest right-leaning position there is. Fight Russia? Are you kidding? Remember Reagan's Goldwater speech?
We cannot buy our security, our freedom from the threat of the bomb, by committing an immorality so great as saying to 1 billion human beings now enslaved behind the Iron Curtain, give up your dreams of freedom, because to save our own skins, we're willing to make a deal with your slave masters. Alexander Hamilton said, a nation which can prefer disgrace to danger is prepared for a master and deserves one.
And remember when Romney said the biggest geopolitical threat facing America was Russia and Obama mocked him?
Governor Romney, I'm glad that you recognize that al-Qaeda is a threat, because a few months ago when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back.
Well, turns out he was right. And if we had just voted for Romney instead of voting for who Jay-Z and Oprah told us was cool, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. Look, Obama was cool, okay? It's undeniable. And I think we all realize that I vote for whoever is cool at the time. It's very confusing, and I realize I'm all over the place because I don't fault Ukraine for fighting back, and I don't want Russia to win. Some of the rhetoric that comes from the new right, and I will say it's in the minority, sounds like victim blaming and Putin apology. If someone starts shooting into my house with a machine gun, you can't blame me for shooting back. And it feels gross to even be commenting on it from the safety of my own home with my bond charge face mask on while people fight and die for their country. I mean, the absolute audacity. We really, truly have no idea what it's like. Look, I'm not a military expert. I know you're shocked to find this out, but I don't think this war will end in a Russian defeat or a total withdrawal from Ukraine unless we put boots on the ground and or escalate this to World War III. I don't get it. This seems like it will only end in catastrophic destruction for Ukraine because they will run out of manpower. And then at that point, the only way to keep the war going is if people from other countries start fighting it. Am I wrong? Can someone with a Ukraine flag in their bio please play this tape forward for me and make it make sense? Are you willing to send your kid to the front lines to defend Ukraine? Is it that important? Do we just keep funding them until Russia magically stands down? Because wouldn't they have done that by now? More importantly, what the fuck is Europe doing other than smoking cigarettes and eating chocolate croissants?
And your sirens sound like gay guys having a threesome.
I demand to know. There was a poll done by The Guardian in December that showed most European countries feel that Ukraine does not get enough Western support. However, only a minority think their country should increase their support. European countries are giving more money for gas and oil to Russia than aid to Ukraine. How can Russia simultaneously be an existential threat to Europe and also one of their primary sources for energy? They're scary, but not too scary to do business with. Germany shut down all their nuclear power plants because an autistic teenager told them to. How dare you? And now they're dependent on Russia, which, by the way, Trump predicted back in 2018, and everyone laughed at him.
Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers.
Well, who's laughing now, Europe? Me! That's who. You can't accuse the U.S. of being the world police and then be mad when we're like, you know what? You're right. We're fucking done. We're not going to be the world police anymore. We're out. And then they're like, you need to do something. You need to do something, please. You're sitting in your cafes talking about what imperialists we are. You know what, Europe? We're done. All right? Pony up yourself. I'll care when Europe cares. How about them apples? They want us to care on their behalf so that they can just eat gelato and stare at the Med. Zelenskyy was right. We do have an ocean between us. And you know what? It sucks to be you, Europe. Oh, you stand with Ukraine? Well, then open up your fucking wallets and stand with Ukraine. There's this idea that if Ukraine falls, Europe falls. This is the other thing, the kind of argument that I'll hear. Well, bye. You're going to have to figure it out, I guess. I mean, if Russia's having such a hard time steamrolling Ukraine, would they be able to roll over the rest of Europe? Probably, to be honest, actually, now that I think about it. Someone tweeted that Western Europe could be conquered by the National Guard of any one American state. And that includes Rhode Island. I'm tired of being lectured by people who are arresting their citizens for memes and have already been conquered by Islam. And they haven't even realized it. Yeah, I said it. The longer I've talked about this, I've arrived at the conclusion that I do not care at all if Europe falls. Because fuck you, Europe. We've been carrying you since World War I. And have you said thank you once? Phetasy News! If you love Dumpster Fire, and I'm sure you do after that show, the best thing you can do is become a supporter of Phetasy.com. You get the unedited version of this Dumpster Fire, and we leave a lot of inappropriate and incoherent content on the cutting room floor. You also get access to everything else we're doing, and it's a lot. Join us right here on YouTube every Tuesday and Friday night at 8 p.m. Central for a new Dumpster Fire. We do a live chat, which is always hilarious. And we moved Watkins Welcome off of this YouTube channel. So please, everyone go subscribe to our new YouTube channel, Watkins Welcome with Bridget Phetasy. There's a link in the description to make it easy for you. And thank you to everyone who helps make Dumpster Fire possible. Thank you to Bond Charge for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you to you, our audience, subscribers, supporters. We love you. We love hearing from you. We love your comments. And thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, Bridget.
We made it. I'm sorry my eyes are like half masked and I look faded, but it's like 1 a.m. And now to cleanse your palate, the internet is glorious.
Influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Remember, life is absurd. Don't take yourself so damn seriously. Take the work seriously. Don't take yourself seriously. This has been your Dumpster Fire. I'm Bridget Phetasy. Now make me rich! Woo!
And the unicorns dance while the world burns.